Good evening, everybody. The last day of September is upon us. So, somebody wake up that guy from Green Day now that September has ended. But I am Derek Dimmitt, joined by James Elfritz and Clarence Wilson for this episode of The Land Show presented by Believe Land Media. And this week, much like when we went live last Sunday following the Browns' victory, or rather the Browns' loss. It's been too long since the Browns' victory, but we're here. We're going to talk some disappointing Browns. Then we'll transition into much brighter things like the Cavaliers, and then finish off with some Guardians talk now that the playoffs are officially started, as the National League wild card got decided this afternoon. But how we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Another Monday, another Browns loss. Been here before.
Yeah. 3 times so far.
Yeah, we're kind of used to it now this season. It's definitely different than last year's feel to it. Another road loss. Maybe a few positives out there, but man, definitely not a lot to build on going into it. But you know what? The Browns lost a game, and since this is the Land Sports Show, I support the Oakland A's tonight one more time. So I'm going to support that land as well, because that city lost their Major League Baseball franchise.
Yeah, they've lost a lot. What was it? Here in the past how many years, Golden State went across the bridge to a new arena. The Raiders went to Las Vegas, and now the A's are transitioning to Sacramento on their way to Las Vegas as well. So very sad for the folks out there in Oakland. Great fan bases, but unfortunately the greed of billionaires gets in the way of that, unfortunately, too often. So yes, our hearts go out to those in Oakland, the other land. But yes, as for us, it was the team that used to call Oakland home that gave the Browns yet another loss. And James, if you want to go ahead and bring up the box score, and we'll dive into that a little bit.
Do we have to?
I mean, I guess we don't have to, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of scoring. Box score, the term score is probably stretched a little thin there, because considering one offensive touchdown, and then the defense did have a scoop and score. So they did match the offense as far as scoring goes. But once again, just not enough points. We can't get to that 20-point mark. Once again, I think we've had, 17 points in the first week, 18 in the second week, and victory, believe it or not. And then 16? Yeah, 16 now. So 20-16 loss in Las Vegas. Guys, why can't we score? Why the freak can't we score? What's the answers? I have my own answers. I want to know what you guys think.
Let's see. We don't run the ball. We didn't try to run the ball. We are attempting to run this brand new offense that they got no preseason work on really against any kind of live competition, except versus the joint scrimmage they did against Minnesota. And I'm sure as shit they probably didn't show them a whole lot during that scrimmage as well. And I'm not even sure what the offense is at this point. Who was watching? 24 for 32, but still didn't even break 200 yards, which is a little concerning to me. Had a $176. Hell, between the two QBs, they barely broke 300 because I think Minshew only threw for $130. I want to say.
Yep.
But there's no continuity whatsoever in this offense, and if it's dink and dunk and short passes, they're not going to do anything. Now, granted, we did see Amari drop one, and then the bomb got called back. for the holding play, which, I mean, say what you want. There was holding on the play. I don't think that it affected it that much, especially when Watson stepped up. The defender was able to try and go for him. So I don't feel like the holding should have been called, but that's also me, getting tired of watching the same old BS. Um, but yeah, we just don't. We have no continuity on offense, no speed, no nothing. So that's why that's in my opinion that's why we can't score, and the fact that this is basically the fourth game that they've ever even tried whatever this offensive system is, and it's just not working in my eyes. I don't know. D, what you think?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. This offense, it's supposed to be this brand new thing and so great, and it's almost like
Juicy.
clockwork. They come out, they have a great first drive. Like looks like they can win Super Bowls. And this isn't the first week that's happened this way, where you have a time consuming, you're in the teens for the amount of plays, you march down the field, score a touchdown, and then after that, it's like it's like the coach from The Water Boy. He loses his little, notebook and he forgets what the hell he's doing. And it shows on the field. Players aren't lining up right. You got Amari Cooper letting the ball bounce off of his shoulder pad instead of using his hands to make a catch. You got Jerry Judy, he'll show flashes, but not what you not what we thought we were getting when we made that trade. You got Elijah Moore making a good catch on a diving catch and then not having another target despite being, what is he, wide open 95% of the plays every play or whatever his dad said on Twitter, and then tried to, bring it back a little bit so he wasn't called OBJ's dad or whatever. And it's just one thing after the other. And here we are, we're not even on October yet, and the apathy is set in. It's like they are who they are. And, you know, at least we finally have our first round draft pick this coming spring, so we have that to look forward to. But this was the easy part of the schedule. This was when we were supposed to get some wins built up, and then you get to a certain point, and then you say, oh, if they go 500 the rest of the way, they could sneak in as a wild card team. But looking at the team now, even this coming week, Jaden Daniels is playing great as a rookie. You can't even count this one as a win coming up. And it's sad. Like, the talent's there, but they just can't put it together. And, you can say, oh, Watson's rusty or Watson this or that. But like you said, Clarence, like, play in the damn preseason, get this shit figured out, and then maybe you'll actually look like a football team come September.
You'd like to hope. You'd like to think so. James, what's your take on the offense? I can't hear you.
With watching Deshaun play yesterday, I think we can all agree there was some improvement there for him. But there was really couldn't go much lower. But the offensive line never did him any favors previous weeks, where this week he did look a little more comfortable. But stats-wise, you're still looking at 241 total yards. Did we improve on our penalties? Yeah, 5 for 38. Time possession was about equal. But, he still didn't, when you look across the board here, with 176 yards and a touchdown, the interception, guys, we all know that really isn't on him. After seeing the one view of the pass route for Amari Cooper yesterday, he looked like he hit him right on time. And, I'm sure Amari would own that one. And got the deflection and the interception by the Raiders. So that would have been another long completion. And then later on in the game, the touchdown pass that was called back due to holding. to Amari Cooper, that he'd have been looking at damn near 250, right? Wouldn't you say, or maybe even a little bit more? So I think that would have been his shining moment, at least as a Cleveland Browns quarterback. But there was just too many other flaws. The one thing I keep looking at the offense, and this is just kind of in general. This just isn't for yesterday. It's just as a whole. And everybody was doing it on, the Browns didn't play till 4:25, but everybody was doing it on X. Everybody was making comments about Joe Flacco's in the game. Look, he just threw a touchdown pass. Baker Mayfield's on fire, playing well at Tampa against Philadelphia. So two former Browns quarterbacks, Flacco and Mayfield, did beat and take down the state of Pennsylvania yesterday by taking down the Steelers and the Eagles. So I got to give them credit there. And the one thing I want to lead back to is, I know Flacco's gone and he's not coming back, and that's perfectly fine. I understand the business side of it. We can't divorce Deshaun Watson because of that contract. And until Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam make a decision to eat the money. But today, I think yesterday, he wasn't really the problem. No. But I just look back as a whole, looking at what the team's lost, and what you don't have out there is you don't have that leadership that a Joe Flacco had. You don't have that credibility and respect level that Joe Flacco had as being a Super Bowl MVP and champion. You look at Bill Callahan, who was the offensive line coach, who also coached the Oakland Raiders to a Super Bowl. They did not win when Tampa beat them that year, but he still has that credibility and the respect as one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. We don't blame him for leaving to go coach with his son. But my concern is that we just lost so much. If you look at two guys that are on our roster that can't play, to me, they're the two biggest components outside of Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and the good news that we got at least out of this that we've heard is that Nick Chubb is going to start practicing this week. Those two guys right there are the other difference makers. They can give us some kind of a balance to an offense. A quarterback's best friend is a running game and the tight end. So just relying on Amari Cooper, and I've said last year before, I don't feel Amari is necessarily one of the top ones in the league. To me, he feels more like a 2, and as how the Browns have treated him in the offseason, not looking to extend him. Go ahead and extend Jerry Jeudy, but they didn't extend the guy that's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. That's a lot of positivity, a lot of experience, a lot of respect. And we're not even talking about Wyatt Teller not being out there either, one of our Pro Bowl guards. So there's a lot missing here. And I think our expectations are the Raiders had their top two players. Gardner Minshew didn't even throw a touchdown. They had rushing touchdowns yesterday. And like you said, he only threw for 130 yards. So how in the world did they beat us with 20 points? And the answer is that we're just not scoring enough, period. I think, and Clarence, we beat that horse last year about our road defense. And yesterday, I think the defense, even though they got gashed in the running game against a team that does not run the ball well, we still are, from a scoreboard standpoint, are keeping and added 6 points, scoop and score once again from the defense. I think the defense gave enough to at least put the offense in a position that if you can score more than 20 points, you can come out with a road victory here in the NFL. We just don't have enough. I think our top guys, our difference makers, on that side of the ball yet. And until Njoku and Chubb are out there, there's not going to be, I think, any big lift to this team. Sorry I was long-winded on that one, but there's a lot there.
I mean, I kind of agree. It was a comedy of errors. The Browns cannot. You hear it a lot. The guy on WKNR says a lot. Complimentary football. We don't play any kind of complimentary football whatsoever. That's in the words of Gerard Cherry. Either the offense is playing okay, the defense isn't, or vice versa, or it's just nothing goes together well at this particular moment. Even Stefanski, like smartest dude in the room. I do not understand that last. You saw him do it in the first half when he tried to get him to jump, right? I did not understand him with under a minute left trying to get them to jump and then having to piss away that timeout, which effectively ended the game if you don't get the fourth down. You don't get that fourth down conversion on 4th and 3. Because you know what? If you just go ahead and snap that ball right there and run the play, even if you fail on fourth down, you still have 3 timeouts. So you can stop the clock 3 times, maybe get the ball back with, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a little under 30 seconds left. But this dude, trying to be the smartest dude in the room, tried to get these dudes to jump, pissed away the timeout, and then at that point, it's like, well, if we don't get the fourth down, we're screwed. It's like they don't. It's like they find ways to not win or not to stay in games or prolong games. I'll never understand it. It's kind of funny because what we're watching right now is kind of very similar to, a lot of what they did last year, but it was one of those things where um, it was okay because we were winning. We ran the ball how many times yesterday? We ran the ball 22 times, threw it 32. It's not an awful ratio, but I'd still like to see them try and attempt to run the ball a tad bit more. But last year when we were running the ball 20 times and throwing it 45 and Flacco was winning games, it was like, all right, it's not working this year. It's not working. So
and you know what,
I don't
guys?
know.
Clarence, there's somebody I left out too in my conversation that's a big part of this, to me, in my opinion, even though he filled in during Chubb's injury, but he filled in greatly, is Kareem Hunt. We didn't replace 10. He had 10 touchdowns last year, if I recall. 10.
It's true.
So you're taking that away from the offense too, and you're looking at where else are you going to get it. And when you put in, you want to run and be physical because we can't pass defend, and Deontay Foreman gets 4 carries for 2 yards, and he's the, in my opinion, Kareem Hunt replacement. What the hell is that?
It's wearing his number.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's good that it sounds like Chubb's on the mend, and may not play this week, still ramping up, but he's been out close to a year, so, and he is a running back. He does have a lot of miles on his legs, has some injuries starting to accumulate, going back to his college days, so expecting him to come back and just be the elixir for the run offense, I think isn't fair to him. He'll definitely be better than what we've had, but to expect him to rush the ball 20, 25 times, eclipse 100 yards each week, I think that's setting us up for more disappointment. And and Njoku has his issues with drops as well. He'll make a spectacular catch in traffic, and then on a quick little hook, it'll just bounce off of his hands, and like his huge ass muscles got in the way. I don't know. So yeah, getting them back would help. Anytime you can get your starters back does help. And yeah, there's been a lot of shuffling on the offensive line, but the Browns aren't the only team that are having injury issues. The Raiders were without their arguably their best offensive player and defensive player, and they still beat us. And the only reason we were in it is off of a scoop and score, and those, you can't count on those type of scores week in and week out. They're great when they happen, and it did bring us back into the game. Unfortunately, Hopkins shanked that extra point, and that changed the trajectory of the rest of the game for the Browns, but I don't know.
Well, and the concern is that we have lost what we thought was stable now is culture and discipline. Like we did improve on, like I said, we improved on our penalties a little bit, but we had to once again. I think we're still the most penalized team in the NFL. But to me, this team right now lacks attention to detail. Like Clarence said at the beginning, the
Mm-hmm.
rhythm of the offense. There's just no continuity right now. With Dawad Jones and what he's doing as a swing door on the right tackle spot, unfortunately, from a conditioning wise, I don't think he's where he needs to be in order to have stability on that side. And I heard on sports radio today they're talking about, hey, why are they not putting a tight end over there to help pick up some of these blocks? I mean, you shouldn't have to all the time, but he's totally missing reads. And when Deshaun got on his ass in the game, I totally respected that. That's the kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff I want to see. And the
Right.
other part, without or just including the attention to detail, is the accountability. And any good accountability on any championship team, showing leadership, accountability starts with self accountability. And I don't want to just hear it in a press conference. I want to see it throughout practice, through the week. I want to see it carry into a game, to where these guys are playing more disciplined football and just look like an actual unit out there that's on the same page. We keep hearing in press conferences after games, we got to get on the same page. To me, that is coaching. That is coaching right there. Now the players, they're obviously accountable to get their timing down on their routes and passes and the handoffs and blocking schemes and who's passing off to who on the line when they're blitzing. But this team, there's just some really big key components that are missing that aren't coming back, like I mentioned, and there's some that's going to be coming back, and I just don't know if they're going to be enough. Three Pro Bowlers of Wyatt Teller, Nick Chubb, and David Njoku should make a big difference. And if they don't, then what are we doing on offense, Ken Dorsey? What are we doing on offense, Kevin Stefanski? Kevin Stefanski, you came as an offensive coach from Minnesota. And you know what that reminds me of? When Brian Billick was the offense coordinator at Minnesota, and he got the Ravens job. And a lot of people were thinking that his offense is going to be lights out. Because back then, Clarence, if I remember right, wasn't that was that the Dante Culpepper
it's Culpepper
teams?
now. Yep.
Yeah,
Culpepper
and
now.
Moss. I mean, those were some really high profile teams, scoring offensively. But when he came to Baltimore, the identity became more about defense, based on the leadership that they had, and that leadership through the draft was Ray Lewis. That leadership was Ed Reed. Leadership on offense and toughness was Jonathan Ogden and Jamal Lewis. And somehow, some way, when that offensive mind left Minnesota and became to Baltimore, he adapted to what that franchise was. I'm still trying to figure out if we are that franchise. We know Pittsburgh just keeps scrapping along, and I'm glad they lost, but they're still 3-1, and Fields played better on Sunday, so still, obviously we'd rather be 3-1 than 1-3, right? Still, I'm just concerned overall as a franchise, as a football team, that we can even get back to where we were last year. And if you remember in my predictions of 9 wins, I said 9 wins is just being optimistic. I don't even know if we can get there, but it's going to be a long season, especially on the schedule we have. Like you talked about, Derek, that the easy part of the schedule is already upon us, and now we thought Washington was easy, and it's not going to be based on the great play of rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels.
What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome to the panel, the godfather of Believe Land Media, Mr. Kevin Sletz. Kevin, how are you feeling tonight?
A lot better than I was at this time last week, that's for sure. Still on the mend.
We're in the middle of Browns talk, so welcome to hell.
Yeah, why did I jump in now?
Good times over here.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I am kind of enjoying about this entire thing, and I shouldn't say that I'm enjoying it, but I'm a Browns fan. I am the typical root for the name on the front, not the back. But I'm finding it funny that all the people who were taking screenshots of like Baker missing guys and everything, and they wanted Baker out of here and all that good stuff. Now they got Watson, and they were, everybody slobbing Watson. And now when Watson's making the mistakes and people are taking screenshots, that's different. That's different. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? I'm looking at this team as a whole. They're not good. I'm back to questioning Stefanski. I was questioning again last year. I questioned him last year, but he was winning. So what can you question? What can you question when you go 11-6 and you're throwing the ball 40 times and you're running at 20, but you're winning? It's like, okay, but I'm questioning him. I'm questioning what this offense is supposed to be. I'm back to thinking that we have overrated our players on both sides of the ball. I have not been an MJ Emerson guy since the moment we drafted him. I thought for sure as shit we were going to take George Pickens, and I was like, we set the wide receiver spot, but no, we took MJ Emerson. And every time I see his ass get ate up, I'm like, man, this is just why do we slob this dude? He's a solid player, but he's not special. And I feel like that's a big thing with a lot of our guys on both sides of the ball. We got Miles on defense. We got the Warden on defense, and on offense, do we have anybody that's like special at this particular moment? Watson show those flashes yesterday. He did show those flashes. He was on the run, but he did show those flashes of being able to escape and make plays with his feet. But for the rest of the squad, I feel like a lot of our guys have been exposed for not being who we thought they were.
I agree 100%. Like I think we talked in the text about it, and Emerson's name came up, and you mentioned Pickens, and that pick will look a lot better right now for sure, especially with Cooper's head up his ass right now, and Jerry Jeudy not doing much. Elijah Moore doing his thing, nothing, which is nothing. So not getting much production there. But yeah, I mean, my take, I thought Watson played pretty well overall. And Clarence, you mentioned the screenshots of the open receivers downfield, but what you're not seeing is the three linemen that are in his face that are enabling him to see those guys downfield for most of the time.
Yep.
Especially yesterday. I don't know how he completed that pass to Moore yesterday, because that lineman was in his face when he threw that ball.
Yeah.
But it was a good throw. But yeah, I mean, encouraging signs from him yesterday. But the offense as a whole is the play calling is terrible. And I don't care if he's 2-time coach of the year. This continues, he's got to be on the hot seat. I don't care. I don't care how good looking he is.
Thank you.
Sorry, women in Cleveland.
Thank you.
But it's time to hold him accountable. It's time to hold Andrew Berry accountable for this flawed roster, because it's obviously flawed. I mean, I don't know what they do at this point. You got to hope that the guys start playing as you expected them to play. You got to hope Cooper gets back to being that number one guy and stops dropping balls. You got to hope they get something out of Jeudy. You got to hope Watson continues to improve. You're putting all your faith in Nick Chubb coming back and being the Nick Chubb of old, but you have a patchwork offensive line that nobody can run behind right now. When the hell is Jack Conklin going to play, by the way? Why is this guy still on the roster? How many games has he played in his Browns career? That's what I want to know.
He's played Ty Jerome.
It's been a while.
He's played Ty Jerome amount of the games.
Limited practice, and then he's out.
Yeah.
And when is DeJuan Jones going to stop being a turnstile at right tackle? He's got the Jed Will syndrome going on. There's so much. Like we could go on for hours. It's a total mess right now. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
Well, and we did compliment the guys. We were happy about the extensions, right? We think prior to this season, the guys deserve their extensions, right? That being Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Is there any debate on that going into this year?
Eh,
Ba-
eh.
based on stability of the franchise, based on where we were, which was LA Clippers basement level.
I'll give them stability. Stability, I'm okay with, but I mean, it was real easy for me to look at that AB draft, that all those AB draft picks, and be like, all right, this guy can't draft, can't draft for shit, honestly. But again, for the stability of the franchise, sure. And my love hate relationship with Stefanski has been well documented over Brown and Orange Weekly and every other podcast we've done since we started this. Um, there's times I'm like, this dude is smart, and then there's times I'm like, this guy is an idiot. I don't know what he is thinking about. Like I said, smartest dude in the room. And Derek, I've stolen Fit Freddy from you. I steal that every time.
Yeah, that's a good nickname.
Because honestly, if you look at it, like the penalties and all that stuff, this is the kind of stuff that Hugh, the team when it was coached by Hugh, were committing these crazy ass penalties, and even going back to Freddie. I mean, say what you will, but the most disciplined Browns team I've seen probably since 18 was that 8-game span when they had Greg Williams coaching that team. They might have gave up some points. They might have bended a little bit, but they led the league in forcing turnovers, and they weren't committing a bunch of penalties. Simple as that. They weren't committing back-breaking penalties. So
let me ask you guys this. This is where I'm at. To me, is it fair to be pro scoring touchdowns and pro winning and not look like you're just absolutely destroying Deshaun Watson and destroying Kevin Stefanski? Is it possible to do it? Because we're not scoring like we need to, and we're not winning. And that's what those two, as the top two, when you look at a Brady and a Belichick, do you look at Watson and Stefanski, and does that resemble anything like that? Or any great quarterback with their head coach, Mahomes with Andy Reid right now? Does that look even similar at all? I think it's an easy answer.
Shit looks like Baker and Stefanski at the end of like 21. Has
Kevin Stefanski ever had his own quarterback his entire time here in Cleveland? Because Baker was whose guy, right? Who drafted him?
The Dorsey.
Because it wasn't Andrew
Dorsey.
Berry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Dorsey's guy.
Mm-hmm.
So in all this time that Kevin's been coach, in fairness to him, has he ever had the guy that he thinks resembles that can run his offense the way he wants to run it? Is the answer Flacco for that short period? Because it sure looked that way.
I mean, Jimmy's the guy who signed off on Watson, but I'd like to believe that did not happen without the endorsement of Stefanski. I would, if Stefanski didn't think that he could run this offense, then he probably would have told him, don't bother. Maybe they went out and got sorry ass Kirk Cousins, who I'm not a fan of. But I would think that Stefanski had to have some kind of sign off on it before Jimmy was going to pony up those funds.
Maybe but isn't every head coach arrogant enough to go, yeah, I can make this work? Because to me, looking back in hindsight, it feels more like a fantasy football trade than anything. And I know Baker was broken, and he looked like crap out there trying to play through that injury that he had. And I think he did us a disservice and him a disservice by not just sitting the rest of the year, getting surgery early, because it was a contract year. And we could at least have Case Keenum out there and running that offense that he was familiar with. Not that would have saved the season, but I think it would have at least been some credibility to that end of that season. Because Baker was done. His accuracy was so bad.
And by sitting him that year, we also could have let him sit and traded him in the offseason and probably gotten something back for him. Because the only thing you had you had the end of 2020, which was a playoff year, and he played some pretty solid games the first few games of 2021 before he got hurt. And, if they just sat him, and then because they already said they started looking for a quarterback in October of that year. Y'all do the math. So if they just sat him at that point, I don't even. It's water on the bridge. The franchise is in the same spot that they were in the end of 2019. At the end of 2021, we don't know how good our quarterback is still. Our defense looks suspect against the run. I just don't know where they go from here. Kind of like Kev said. Like, now this is the Browns, so we're going to shit the bed against these first four teams, right? And then we're going to come out against these powerhouse squads and probably whoop ass for some unknown reason, just because that's what we do. but I'm not counting on that.
Yep. All right, guys. Enough doom and gloom. Let's get to some round ball talk. Cavs hosted their annual media day today, and that is the unofficial start of training camp. They're doing a little different this year, heading down to Florida for the first part of their training camp because, taking camp on the road has worked so well for the Browns. So let's do it for the Cavs. But they're running it back. Kobe Altman said we're going to run it back in June or whenever he said that, and he stuck to his word. So that includes Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade. So where are we thinking, guys? Ed Tristan Thompson. Yeah, he's on the roster again. Not Marcus Morris though. He's no longer here. But how are we feeling? Still a couple weeks before almost a month before the regular season starts. But how are we feeling here as James has brought up our training camp roster? A lot of familiar names, but where do you guys want to start with it?
I need James.
You want me to start? You really want me to start?
I need you to tell me why Donovan Mitchell's not a number one. Let's start there.
Oh, he's definitely number one. Here we go. Buckle up.
We're off and running.
No, I will say it was really nice it was refreshing to hear him just be able to relax at the press conference and just be honest, and where he had made a decision at some point last year that he was going to be coming back, telling his teammates that, and mentioning to his mom how he really liked it here. He said he talks about the traffic's only bad when it's 5 o'clock. That's usually true. I mean, except for all the construction we had. But no, it felt good to have somebody of his stature that I remember in Utah when he was playing there. He sent a tweet out, I think, back then. He was saying, hey, is there any barbecues? Anybody having a barbecue close by? And he was looking for people to, send him an address. So he ended up showing at some dude's barbecue, and it was a pool party. And so he said he's a pretty simple guy. So from a human standpoint, totally excited for that. Happy for him. Really hoping his knee is going to hold up through the contract extension that he signed. And, I'm looking forward to him trying to lead this team next year, or into this next season again, and into next year for the playoffs, and hopefully take another step up and maybe get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But that's a big if, because it's got to be a hell of a lot more than Donovan Mitchell in round 2 the way it was this past year, especially with the Knicks trade, looking to get Cat from the T-Wolves. The Knicks once again improving, but I think we still all see the Cavs somewhere as a mid playoff team, yes, but kind of like in the mid area of like the 4 or 5 seeds, maybe even the 6 seed. Where you guys stand on that?
I seen somebody from ESPN actually picked them to finish second in the East, which being very generous. I'm thinking 4 or 5. Obviously, you mentioned the Knicks, that they got Mikal Bridges. Now they're getting Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know how all those guys are going to mix together. Hopefully, it blows up in their face. Philly got Paul George. Boston pretty much ran it back, but I mean, why not with the roster they have? But I wasn't crazy about running it back. I'm not a big Isaac Okoro fan, so that extension didn't really excite me much. Maybe Kenny Atkinson can get something out of him that JB Bickerstaff couldn't. One guy I think Atkinson will get a lot out of is Evan Mobley. I think he'll help elevate his game and the way he wants to use him. The same with Darius Garland. It was good to see Darius Garland put on some weight, some muscle. But like you mentioned, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, if there's an athlete in Cleveland that's on the gets us meter is off the charts, it's him. You mentioned going to the barbecue in Utah. There was the Browns tailgate. He's out in the Muni lot with his camera videotaping Myles Garrett and then playing cornhole, playing was a keg bowling, with just mixing in with the fans. I mean, when you see a NBA superstar or a superstar in any sport do something like that, that's a very rare thing, especially in Cleveland. So yeah, I mean, they're going to need him. They're going to need Mobley. They're going to need Garland. They're going to need bench production. They're going to need George Niang to hopefully he lost some weight and got a shot back.
Hopefully he gave some of that weight to Mobley.
I pick on Ty Jerome because of the season-ending ankle injury, but I was actually excited when they signed him last offseason, and supposedly he's been the star of the pre-camp workouts, and they could really use his three-point shooting off the bench and in that backup point guard role. So I'm actually anxious to see what he can do. Jalen Tyson looked good in the summer league. Excited to see if he can crack the rotation. But I think their big move, they didn't make a move this offseason. I think their big move will come at the trade deadline, and Karis LeVert's an expiring deal that they're probably not going to keep. I think they can end up moving him, and that could be a slot where Tyson moves into that spot, and they fill another hole that they need with the first contract. But I see them as a 4 or 5, and I'm anxious, especially with the way the Brown season's going for their season to get underway here, and they're going to have a winning record and play some exciting games during the regular season. So yeah, definitely looking forward to the season.
In the same boat. I wasn't, kind of like Kev said, I wasn't a big fan of running it back. I thought for sure if they could make a move with Garland, they'd get him up out of here. But from what I read today, same thing. He gained some weight. I heard Mobley put on some weight as well. So I'm excited to see what they do. That's whoever said second in the East. God bless you for that. That's just not. I can't see that happening. Not with the moves the other teams have made, and we're just basically running it back. But we're depending on internal development, internal growth. That's the only way this team is really going to get better outside of the addition of Jalen Tyson coming in here, and possibly, making some kind of impact. But I don't know. Same boat. I'm interested to see what they do. I will always be happy to see Tristan Thompson on this team. Not because of, he brings a championship experience, whatever. But I mean, go look it up. He punched Draymond at the club, man. That's you punch Draymond, you got a forever fan. He needs his number retired for that alone. Period.
I agree.
At the club or in the arena?
At the club.
He was smart. He did it off the floor.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get more into the Cavs here as gets closer to regular season, but it's always fun when media day. There's a lot of optimism. Even if you have that realist look at it, like Kevin said, maybe a 4 or 5 or somewhere in that range, but hope springs eternal. So we have that going for us. And another thing coming up here, we got Guardians playoffs, and they won enough that they don't have to go through this wild card series, this best of 3 series. And it's kind of difficult because you play 162 games and you make the playoffs, and then you have to win 2 or 3, and that's a lot of pressure for what baseball is. But as James has kindly brought up the standings, didn't get the number 1 seed, but got the number 2. They'll take on the winner of the Tigers Astros wild card series that gets kicked off tomorrow afternoon. I think it's on ABC at like 2:30 or something. So it's playoffs and anything can happen. I've seen a few prognosticators pick the Guardians to represent the American League, if not win it all. And most of that's based on the bullpen. So going into it, we can't get too far into it with who they're playing because, I kind of hope it's the Tigers. I know they've been one of the hottest teams in baseball over the last month or so, but the Astros always seem to have our number. And I know Sunday's game got rained out, but they won Friday and Saturday. And, going in Friday, the Guardians still had something to play for. They won and, likely won out, they would have had the number 1 seed. So the Astros always scare me. They have guys that have been there before, that have done it, and that scares me. I'd rather take on the young team, the Tigers. They're going to have to throw Skewball one time here in this wild card series, so he won't be on full rest, if you play him on Saturday. But what do you guys think here as we get ready for the playoffs to get going here over the weekend?
Go Tigers.
So let me just say this really quickly. I have not watched any baseball all season long, very little. I will be watching the playoffs, so I'm going to drop off, but I only got one thing to say before I drop off. There's nothing left to do but win the whole damn thing. I love y'all. Peace out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Let's win that sumbitch.
Yeah. I'm rooting for the Tigers. I want no part of the Astros. You talked about their playoff experience. Is it 7 years in a row now? And yeah, like you said, they always play us tough. It's just a bad matchup for us. But at the same time, you got Detroit with Skubal. He'll be pitching game 1 tomorrow. You have to face him twice in a 7-game series. That's tough. I mean, he's probably going to be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League.
Mm-hmm.
There's an argument to be made for Class A, obviously, but Skubal's had an unreal season. And it's crazy. You think about Detroit, too. They traded their number 2 starter, Jack Flaherty, to the Dodgers, and still were able to make this run. Imagine if they kept him. But, yeah, I'm excited for it. It gets underway Saturday afternoon. I'm guessing nothing's been announced, but I'm guessing it's going to be Tanner Bybee game 1 and probably Matthew Boyd game 2. It's the top 2 starters. I know Alex Cobb pitched a simulated game the other day and looked good. So I'm guessing it would be either him or Ben Lively in that 3 spot for game 3. And I know, Derek, you mentioned it earlier that Tom Hamilton said with the way the series kind of lays out, you only need 3 starters and everybody will be on their normal rest, which is good because, you don't really want to go deeper than 3 with what we have right now. But, we have the advantage with the bullpen over any team, in my opinion. If we can get 5 good innings out of our starter and then go to those guys, we know the names: Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, Emmanuel Clase. I mean, they pitch lights out all season, and that's going to be the advantage, and that's huge in the playoffs. Just the only thing that worries me is the hitting, because it just seems if Kwan, Ramirez, Naylor aren't hitting, that neither is the rest of the lineup. So you've still got a couple guys barely hitting 200. So that's going to be a struggle if your big guys aren't getting on base and driving in runs.
And that's the key is getting ahead too. We don't play well when we get down early, where that offense feels that much more pressure. I know we've had some comeback wins this year, but I know when the biggest point of the season when we were struggling, it just seemed like we were getting down and down early. So I'd like to avoid that. Super excited to see Tanner Bybee as our ace in this upcoming series. Thank God we get to watch the game 1 on Saturday. And I tell you what, this is what I love. Houston fans are pissed because they got day games in their wild card series. You know what? The hell with you. I don't care if you like it. But on the same token, I sure don't want day games for the Guardians the following week for the ALDS. So that is about as annoying as hell to be at work and then have those games going on, and especially when you got a lot on your plate right now. So would love to have night games for that. But if we have to play Houston, if we can kick their ass and kick the Yankees' ass in the same playoffs in the American League to make the World Series, that would be sweet. I would love that. But I get it. Do we want to have that matchup? Do we want to face a team with experience like Houston who lives in the ALCS? I am not really concerned about the Yankees. They seem to want to beat themselves a lot. So I think I feel that's probably the team we have the best chance against, in my opinion, is the Yankees, just because of the way they shoot themselves in the foot so much. But just excited. In fact, this is the part where I let Brandon know if he wants to go back and pull my clip of our midseason review, and if we wanted to change how many wins we were going to have, and just make sure you look up my win total, because I think I nailed it right on the head. And we talked about starting pitchers that may be on this team that hadn't helped us at that point in the season. And thank you, Matthew Boyd, for coming up and helping us get to the finish line of having a very successful regular season. And you know what the Guardians did that the Browns still haven't did since 1989 is they brought me one of these. So now a Central Division Championship pennant, the first one ever as the Cleveland Guardians, is in my house in the Cave of Champions, going up on my wall. Browns, where is yours? Where's yours?
And how crazy is it that there's 3 teams from the American League Central in the playoffs?
I love it. Great point.
I love it too. I love it too.
Paul's Tigers.
And the Twins on the outside looking in, which is I love as well.
So
Yeah.
sad.
It's great to see, because I feel like the Royals and the Tigers are kind of in the same boat as us. You know, the Twins, they went out and got Correa. They've had a few guys that they've gone out and paid money for, and more so the Tigers and the Royals are kind of more like the Guardians. They're building from within. I think I saw a clip of Jensen Lewis saying that the Guardians really only have 3 free agent signings on their roster right now: Hedges, Boyd, and the last one escapes me. But obviously they've had a few guys acquired by trade, you know, Lane Thomas, Alex Cobb here this year. But it just goes to show how good it is, the system that the Guardians have. And I saw a graphic over the weekend, I think, that had them 3rd or 4th for rankings for like the pipeline or whatever, and they were the only playoff team in that top 4. Detroit was 5, but you know, 1 and 2 and 3 were teams that aren't currently in the playoff picture. So it's, you know, they kind of lull you to boredom a little bit with the way they play sometimes, but they find ways to win, and they have a bullpen that's scaring a lot of teams. And that's great to have at this point, because you saw what Terry Francona did in 2016 with arms in the bullpen. And, you know, it's asking a lot of Stephen Vogt as a rookie manager to kind of know what buttons to press, but luckily he has Carl Willis to lean on in those situations. You know, is this too early to throw Cade Smith? Or, you know, if I don't throw him here in the 6th inning against the 3, 4, and 5 hitters, is it going to matter in the 8th inning, you know, or will we not have the lead? So, you know, that's the great thing about playoff baseball. There's so much gamesmanship, or that chess battle, and it's when fans that really love the game, I think, can really get into it and enjoy it. And you lose that with there being 162 games. Like, you just have those days where it's like, oh, they're on, but I'll just, you know, check my phone every so often for the box score, or I'll get a tweet alert or something like that. But to actually sit there and watch 9 innings, and, you know, I'm sure you guys are the same way, knowing your fandom, but you're trying to think like the manager's thinking. Okay, it's the fifth inning. Your starter's been doing good, but this is the second time through the order he's getting to the meat of the lineup. Trying to kind of think Monday morning quarterback, armchair quarterback, whatever you want to call it, but the playoffs are. I think the baseball playoffs are the best for that. What?
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking we have a 2-3 run lead. Let's not bring in Nick Sandlin.
I don't even know if he'll make the postseason roster. I mean,
honestly, I would take the rookie Andrew Walters over him right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sometimes you get those guys that teams haven't seen, and they can just surprise you. And he's looked great since they brought him up, so definitely can reward him. And he would be kind of that extra guy, because you named him, Kevin. Four innings, and you have Heron, you have Smith, you have Gaddish, you have Clase. There's your 4 innings.
You got Gavin Williams in the bullpen too. I mean,
yeah,
he can come in and let it fly for an inning or two, and knowing he doesn't have to pitch 6, 7, 8 innings.
Yeah, so definitely a good spot to be in. But like you said, you still have to score. You can't. Your pitching can be great, but you still have to score at least one. And if the big boppers, in quotation marks, I guess, Ramirez, Naylor, even Jimenez, Wayne Thomas came on here in the latter parts of the season. Kyle Manzardo, Big Christmas.
Yeah, he's been slumping, but hopefully he gets it back here. Yeah,
but are these guys are they gonna kind of falter in the bright lights? You hope not, and you hope they have Oscar Gonzalez like series, but without the follow up the next season that Big O had.
Fall off the face of the earth afterwards.
Yeah, but I think Big Christmas is going to come up big time. It's baseball, though, right? You're going to have some guys that will struggle in it and some guys that won't, and that could change series to series. But I think having Big Christmas put one in the seats right behind you at Progressive Field for the playoffs, they're going to be. I mean, look, it's there's no game tonight, and you got a sellout crowd behind. You're live at Progressive Field, right there.
Yeah, I mean, look at that.
It's a sellout. Yeah, so yeah, he's gonna be sending some deep balls there in the playoffs. So it's gonna be exciting. I cannot wait to watch and just feel the crowd, even though through TV. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get to an ALDS game. I think I'm going to kind of wait it out and see what other games come to play, because I hope it's a magical playoff run for our Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah, playoff baseball is a totally different animal, for sure.
You want to wrap us up, Godfather?
Huh? Go Guardians. Like James said, I'm looking forward to watching Game 1 on Saturday. Thankfully, it's a Saturday afternoon and not a weekday afternoon. Hopefully, they'll get some night ALDS games. Go Browns, I guess. They play the Commanders, who just put up 42 points on the Cardinals and got a hot rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. So best of luck to them. Go Buckeyes.
Yeah, that's right. Continue to follow the Land Sports Show across all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X. We're live right now. We want to continue to build this base, have an exciting show, have some fun, talk a little shit, but then also make some sense at the same time as we try to weather ourselves through this football season. But then, like I said, we are going to have a fun October baseball. And the Cavs, getting ready to kick off their preseason, I believe, next week against the Pistons, I think. No, they opened the season against the Pistons. But, with Cavs right around the corner, October is going to be a fun month. And just looking forward to Stephen Vogt and the boys of summer just carrying us through October and hopefully raising that trophy in Progressive Field this year. Let's end that damn draft.
3, 4.
Talk to you next time, everybody.